Now, I would like to welcome our next speaker for the plenary, Malcom White, Business Development and Compliance Manager at AST Recycling. We're happy to have you here, and the floor is yours, Malcom. Good morning.
Good morning, Simone, and good morning, viewers, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow colleagues. I'm going to put up a screen share quickly so that I can share my presentation. But before I do that, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to be part of this first e-waste conference on our beautiful continent. I've always maintained that we have got so much to give and to do, and instead of deliberating over what we're going to do and stop bringing the e-waste to our continent, let's turn it into resources and jobs. So I'm going to give my definition of how we can do that. So if you'll bear with me, thank you. Right. Can everyone see my screen? I would assume.
Yes, we got it.
Good. Good. So I guess maybe a lot of this might be a cliche that people have used before, but the linear economy, the way we were doing things, was just pretty much wasteful and very destructive to our environment. And it was a case of take, make, use, and dispose. And mining was the method of getting resources out of the ground, leaving a huge carbon footprint, a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and just a total danger and degradation to the environment. Also coupled to human health issues. So at the end of the day, as much as we have many of the minerals and resources on this beautiful continent, they are finite. And if we think about finite, we're talking about something that will come to an end, or there's only a limited amount of it. And to this end, we need to refocus our efforts to to the circular economy. And on the slide there, it's very simple. Design and manufacture for recycle or for repurposing or recovery. The goods go to the retailers to be sold. We buy them as consumers in the households, in government, in the private and public sectors, corporate sectors. And then at the end of life, or at the end of useful life to the institution, it's reused, repaired, or recycled. And
Malcom?
Yes.
Excuse. We're still at slide number 1, or?
Oh dear, I've
need to manually change otherwise. I don't know if you wanted to change or if it's.
I did change. Has it changed?
Oh, in that case, you are probably viewing another one on your screen, so you have to close that one, because now we only see the PowerPoint program. We don't see the what do you call it? Presentation mode. We don't see that. I'm sorry. I just realized.
Forgive me. This is.
Oh, it's. You are not the first one. So now I should have thought of this straight away. So just close the presentation mode, and it's fine if you just use there. Just do it manually like that. That's perfect.
And there is it okay? Good. So it's changed to okay. Good. Okay, so in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, their definition of the circular economy is based on 3 principles, and that is design out waste and pollution, keep your products and your materials in use, and regenerate the natural systems. And I chose just 2 sort of simple examples. Being African, I think we'd be able to sort of really just understand this very simply. the first one I've used the water cycle. Water lying in oceans, rivers, dams, and everywhere on the surface evaporates. It goes up into the air. Condensation takes place. There's transpiration out of the plants. There's precipitation. In other words, it rains. At the surface runoff, and it goes back into dams and things. But in that process, the land gets the water that it needs. We get the water that we need to survive, etc. And what is the benefit of this? Well, simply there's zero waste. There's continued reuse of secondary resource materials. If I can compare that to the e-waste industry, we're not losing the materials that we've mined or taken out of the ground. There are less mining activities, and that equals to less greenhouse gas emissions, degradation of the land, and depletion of the finite resources. It's synergistic and symbiosis. Everyone benefits. And that's what happens when there's rain, the crops grow, and when the crops grow, they bear fruit and seed, and the seed eventually drops off and then germinates, and so the cycle continues. It's more efficient. There's a lot less cost. If we take the cost of recovery of metals out of electronic waste, it's probably a tenth, if not less, of the cost of mining. Also modular by design. You only need to replace what needs replacing. I think one of my pet frustrations is that, and for those of you who are in that industry, the mobile cellular industry, why not have one simple charger that does the same job for all the different phones, to make it more simple? But I think that goes back to the design for recycling. It's beneficial to your environmental health, and it's beneficial to human health. We all have a right to be on this planet. We all have a right to participate in the resources of this planet. And if we don't watch out, our children are not going to have anything left in time to come. And I think in some cases that time is a lot sooner than what we think. Just another slide, very simple. Nature is very good at it's perfected the art of circular economy. Absolutely nothing goes to waste. Growth is regenerated when seeds drop, germinate, and grow again to become adult seed-bearing trees, plants, crops. It's pure, it's simple, it's effective, and economical to everyone's benefit. So how does that tie into what we're talking about in e-waste? Well, the definition of finite, having definite or definable limits, a finite number of possibilities. It's only a limited nature or a limited number of things. So the resources are limited. There's only so much gold in the ground, so much steel, so much silver, whatever the case may be. And I always say, what is the big question is, if we destroy everything in the pursuit of that which is fast, efficient, intelligent, and makes life simple, how do we continue this technological growth without the natural resources required to do so? Are we willing to drown in our own waste without consideration for our fellow man and the planet, our children even, and the planet being our very source of enabling that pursuit of all of these wonderful things? And to me, the only solution is the circular economy. Currently, the percentage of Earth's natural resources that are being overused, they say with the measure of what we need in terms of land, water, etc., for the human population that is required to produce the resources that we consume and to absorb the waste, which includes measures of energy, food, timber, and waste, we're currently using 175% or 1.75 planets to support our current consumption of resources. So the little picture speaks for itself. 1 3/4 of a planet, that equals to the end, because where are we going to get this when it's all finished? I then move on to the interesting fact around the potential in Africa. Based on the Global E-Waste Monitor report of 2020, we currently, there were 1.2 billion inhabitants on the continent of Africa. 53 countries, they actually analyzed 49 of the countries. The current generation of e-waste per capita is 2.5 kilograms. So 2.5 kilograms per person of e-waste generated annually. It equals to 2.9 million tons of e-waste on the continent of Africa at the moment. The figure was 1.5 million tons literally in 2017. So it's grown tremendously. The 2.9 million tons represents 5.41% of total e-waste generated globally as of 2020, and that was, I think, 53.6 million tons. Out of the 2.9 million tons of e-waste in Africa, 0.9% or 0.03 million tons has been documented for collection and recycling, or a collection rate of 0.9%, with a total value of $3.2 billion in terms of the raw materials in e-waste. I think those figures just speak for themselves, because at the end of the day, if we look at the opportunity there, we're sitting in a pandemic. The COVID pandemic has caused terrible destruction in the economies around the world. But I think in Africa, our potential of utilizing e-waste as a quick comeback and a way of sustainable income is the way to go, because we have a very huge informal collection footprint on this continent. And I believe you would all agree to me, those of you who live in Africa, we are born into recycling. If you go and buy a bucket of paint and you're just done with your painting job, you put the bucket outside, believe me, somebody's going to pick it up and going to be using that bucket to carry water and all sorts of things for a very long time. And until it's completely destroyed, and then they will sell that plastic to a plastic recycler for recycling. So we're already semi into this circular economy, and we just need to really spend more time developing it and helping people. I was just listening to the previous speaker in terms of developing people. It's something the sector needs to do, to get to the e-waste and to collect it, but also to create sustainable income for those people. Just some of the countries in the region, sub-regions with the highest amount of e-waste. East Africa, you're looking at Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania, combined about 150,000 odd tons. Middle Africa, Angola, Cameroon, and the Congo Republic. You're looking at Southern Africa, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. Northern Africa, Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco. And then West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. Just between those countries, there's a very, very large percentage of e-waste that needs to be managed properly. It needs to be managed effectively. And I believe if we work together in a collaborative partnership with partners throughout the continent and pool our resources and pool our knowledge base, we can really turn this into an incredible circular economy, keeping the resources on the continent and creating jobs on the continent. E-waste is one of the quickest mechanisms, I believe, to revitalize economies in Africa post-COVID-19. I've said that already. And with less than 1% being recycled formally, that potential for job creation and sustainable incomes is a massive opportunity. With that opportunity comes the advantage of cleaning up the environment as well as recovering the secondary resource materials for the recycling and the manufacturing of new products. And if you take it, typically a lot of countries, I know in South Africa we have a very big issue with the local governments and municipalities having serious financial problems just to carry out the normal mandate. And we could play a very big role in helping local municipalities and local governments in all the different countries to actually clean up the environment, because there's money to be made, but it's got to be done properly. We cannot just do the cherry picking thing that was sort of the traditional e-waste recycling practice years gone by. You have to think differently. You have to look at the repurposing. You've got to look at offering a full bouquet of services to clients, all the way from repurposing and refurbishment, and the last thought being the recycling. And in that way, you're contributing fully to the e-waste circular economy. I believe very strongly, and I'm quite passionate about the fact that Africa should not worry too much about the fact that the developing world has deferred, or as they call it, the deferred dumping, dumped a lot of e-waste onto this continent, and trying to get them to come and take it and take it back and clean it up. We need to take what we've got and be resourceful and turn that into revenue and other resources. You know, the old adage of when life gives you a lemon, then make lemonade comes to mind. So I believe that's what we should focus on. And I think this conference is possibly the very first attempt at getting the players together across the continent to see what we can do to actually make that difference. So yeah, we mustn't do what they're doing in the picture, where the mother says to the little boy, all you've done is chiseling all day. Do something useful, like helping your brother drag those rocks up the hill, and he's busy making a wheel. So with that, I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to some very interesting developments in this space in time to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, for an excellent circular economy promotion and taking it to the e-waste field. That was great. I actually, when you talked about how we shouldn't, well, a lot of people, when we talk about these things about, well, we need to take care of our earth, they feel it's a bit dystopic, or it's like we're talking about the end of the world, we're using all our resources, and they feel, I guess it also touches people, get bad conscience, etc. But I think you give a very positive point there. It's the opportunities are there, and we can actually, the circular economy is the solution for this, and we don't have to overthink it many times, because it's what we've been doing for our whole lifespan as human beings, except for now in the end, when we started just having waste as a concept, which means something goes to waste, right? And instead of that, seeing it as the resource it is. Yes. And of course, making lemonade of lemons is another great way of seeing it. And I think that's the concept, the training, and like you said, with the help of Nordic and similar programs to elevate people in knowledge, and also seeing the opportunities that comes with this. And of course, that also goes back to what Retta presented with an innovation hub, to get the support of how can I take this? I have an idea and it should work. Could it? Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do we have Retta and Malcolm with us still? No, I'm sorry, Retta and Tormod with us still? No, okay. See if I have any questions in the Q&A before I leave you. Rabina Shajan gives you credit, very inspirational, Malcolm. And also from George Varotere, for the numbers you shared in Eastern Africa, slide 9 or 8, what is the source for the statistics? I believe you had some sources in the presentation. Is that true?
Yes, that was from the The Global E-Waste Monitor 2020, Quantities, Flows, and the Circular Economy Potential. It was published by the United Nations University. And there's a whole, it is, the credit is at the bottom of the slide. So I have shared it in the handouts. I'm not too sure if it's there yet, but you're welcome to have a look at it. Or
it is.
just contact.
If you go in the right-hand side on handouts, everyone in the audience, we have Malcom Circular Economy and its role in promoting resource recovery.
That's it.
Available there. So that's great. And then we have another one. Hello, I'm from Fab Lab Winam of Kisumu. How can we partner to implement this together? We believe we could be able to play an important role at the low level, as by Martin Olo. This is great. I think that will be a continuous discussion with us. And yeah, do we have another one? Let's see.
Yeah, I've put up my.
And also, I like the way. I'm sorry. Continue.
And I was just saying, I did put up my contact details at the end of my presentation. Anyone who wishes to make contact, please drop me a mail. Feel free to send me a mail or call me, and we can definitely. We have quite a big strategy to develop into Africa, as our company has presence in Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria currently. And we've been having quite a few discussions with Bonnie at the WE Center as well.
Thank you. That's very generous of you. Now we have a couple more questions. Do we have any electronics manufacturing companies in Africa? If we have, can they play a role in extraction of electronic components from e-wastes? By Eric Ngetuni. We do have some electronic manufacturings, like what's their name? IoT, who are doing circuit boards. We also have Gearbox. They're not a manufacturing company. They're more of a hub where you can do your components and create and manufacture things and try out, which is great. And yes, we are seeing if we can partner up and have more reuse of components from this, along with also some of the universities that have more practical, the technical parts. So, but do you know, Malcolm, of any other manufacturing companies in Africa that could be a...
I think the more along the lines of circuit board manufacturers. I know we had in South Africa at one point there were some companies that were importing components and assembling computers in South Africa. I'm not too sure if they're still in existence, but they are not to the extent of your bigger producers. But an interesting thing, just as an aside, as we have an ITAM division, our current South African EPR regulations stipulate that if we are refurbishing computers and placing them back on the market, we are deemed to be producers. So we fall under the extended producer responsibility legislation or whatever. So that's quite interesting.
Is it discouraging when that happens then, to become a producer and then have to take responsibility, or do you feel it's in order, but we just need to come up with the routines and how this is supposedly being handled?
I believe it's encouraging because the one downside that in my time in this industry is that there are a lot of very young postgraduate students that have learned about the precious metals available in printed circuit boards, and they encourage people to get into e-waste because there's so much money to be made, and that's not entirely the truth. It's a very high cost, high volume, low margin business that requires big infrastructure and specialized people to do the job. yes, it doesn't need a high level of skills to do, but at the end of the day, I think it causes a lot of informal trading and informal practices to take place where they would strip components out purely for the circuit boards and chuck the rest into the bush or into a landfill site or whatever the case may be. And I think that's where the whole collaboration thing comes into play in terms of training, getting your collectors and everyone that's in the whole value chain to actually understand the importance of bringing complete devices into registered facilities or facilities that have been formally set up, whether it's just a sorting and dismantling and that type of facility, all the way up to your tier one. It doesn't matter. I think to level the playing fields is the big thing, and that way, I believe you'd go a long way in reducing the issues that you have, for instance, in your Agbook Bloshi type of scenario where people are sitting on the landfill sites and they're actually burning devices just for one particular metal. They're not realizing the full value of what they're doing. Connection, and that collaboration is important.
We heard Wednesday morning Melissa Owen, representative. She was talking about Brazil and Latin America, how they were, and actually now in their EPR, you have to be in the system, and the e-waste has to go all the way, and then you need to be contracted with whoever has the responsibility to be able to reuse or recycle, etc. But they do have contracts even with small, more informal parts and players in this value system. So they are trying now to make it work and make it formalizing it's sort of what you're now speaking about. So yes, I think it's going to be feasible to do that, and it's going to be safer for everyone. And like you said, then we won't have some parts discarded and just some parts used. It's going to be at least those that might be discarded, they can go to a proper recycling in that case. So that's great. Well, we have some questions actually. The audience has woken up. But you wanted to continue on that?
I just basically on the what you just said, that's why I believe that there's a strong benefit to the informal sector being trained up just the basic training to understand the benefits of the full value of bringing devices in. And if it's set up properly, I believe the value all the way down the value chain, if it's managed properly by the tier one companies, can be passed right down so that there's incentive for the informal collectors to bring complete devices into proper registered facilities and have the proper training. It's for their health benefits. It's for the benefit of the environment, of course, and then obviously the sustainability. If I take some of the people that support our company just here in South Africa, they make some seriously good money, ranging between, I'm going to talk in rands, but anything between 15 and 40 or 50,000 rand a month, because they've been trained. I can share very quickly a story where I had a guy that used to come into a previous company I worked for, and he came in with 3 television sets one day, and we weighed them and we paid him, I think, 80 rand. And he said, "Oh, these things are still working. You know, I expected much more than that. My taxi fee to get here was 100 rand. And I saw he had a bit of potential, so I took him aside and we showed him what he should be doing. And he started bringing e-waste and sorting it and dismantling and bringing all the fractions to us to maximize his value and his return. And in that year, the first year, he earned 275,000 rand, to the point where he bought his own vehicle. He paid for his schooling, he paid for his brother's schooling, and he supported the mom because dad had passed on. And that was just in 1 year, showing someone how to actually maximize that. And that's why I'm very, very passionate about it. And I truly believe it'll go a long way in changing that 0.1% or 1% that's been recycled to a much bigger figure than that at this point in time.
For sure, that's a great story also. Thank you for sharing. So quickly, before we need to go to the next session, but this is great. We want interaction, so I'm giving time for that. One question is, urban mining is a capital-intensive venture. Do you think urban mining, meaning even taking care of all the precious metals, do you think through partnerships, Africa could set up an African Union facility for this?
I think that is the only way to do it, that a person sort of has facilities set up in, let's say, Southern Africa, the East Coast and the West and Western Africa, purely because of the very capital intense investments that have to be made right at the end. Your recovery and beneficiation of the platinum group metals is costly, and unfortunately, contrary to popular belief, there's no one solution that fits every single grade of PC board, for instance. Your lower grade boards yield much lower contents of gold, but they're very high in copper, and so it goes on, and there's different treatments in terms of the pre-treatment that has to be done. So when you're looking at those things, we were looking at just a shredding plant for our business, and you're talking between 20 and 50 million rand, because it's not just the plant, it's the infrastructure, it's the buildings, the land, it's the people that you need to have to run it. There's a lot more technical expertise in managing a plant, for instance. And then when you go to your to the actual refining side of it, then it becomes quite expensive. And I believe that this is where we need to use this type of platform to consider putting in facilities. And then what you do is you make use of the Basel Convention transboundary movement protocols to move the fractions from one facility to another, because it's being treated properly and it's then safe to move. And also to add to the critical mass. And in that way, sort of with an African Union approach, everybody ultimately benefits from that, and we keep the resources and the forex on the continent.
Exactly. Thank you. Another question is, how can we tackle incentives to be given? It's from David Butita, CEO, Center of Electronic Waste Management, unclear which country. How can we tackle incentives to be given to people so as they can dispose their items for safe disposal? An idea. Yeah.
I think
we had a session yesterday on incentives, and it's not very easy, but yeah.
Yeah, it is very difficult, but I believe, again, with a collaborative approach and with the right facilities in place, I can give you a brief example of what our current system is proposing. A 4-tiered system where tier 4 is your informal and sort of just collection type of person. They go out and they collect, and they come and sell to a buyback center. And the incentive there is, if I can use the example that I've used before, where they would take a CRT monitor and they'd smash it and take out break the copper yoke off, and the PC board would come out and sell that and maybe earn 20 Rand for that. We're saying give him 30 Rand to bring the whole device in where it's managed, and we can then dismantle it properly in controlled circumstances. So the next tier up would be a buyback center stroke collection point, and maybe some basic sorting and basic dismantling for economies of scale, because logistics remains your biggest problem in this, or challenge in this business in terms of cost. And then from there, those fractions can be forwarded onto a tier 2 type of operation, where they do finite sorting and further dismantling into the fractions and getting it off to then the specialist downstream vendors. That way, when it then goes into beneficiation, you're getting a far better return from the beneficiation of the materials that you're recovering, and that can be passed all the way back down. The EPR funding can also, a portion of that can also be used to cross-subsidize the lower tier operations, if I can put it that way. And I believe that's where the EPR type of funding can be put to good use, rather than whatever else they intend doing with it. Because a lot of recyclers have the idea they need to be subsidized. Well, if you manage your business properly and you get the volumes, you do make money. It is a challenge when it comes to your negative fractions and your hazardous fractions, and that costs money to treat. But if we work that way around, instead of the CRT casing and stuff ending up in the bush somewhere, where it's going to be a problem because the glass is still there, the CRT glass is the hazardous part of it. That's the way I envisage incentivizing it. And then also maybe some of the bigger recyclers buying into smaller businesses and mentoring them and just, helping them to grow over a 5 or a 3 or a 5 year period.
I agree. And it was mentioned the other day also about the EPR money that has come for a lot of products in other countries where this is a functioning system. But then the products move from those countries down to Africa or somewhere else, where the money stays there that was supposedly to help recycling. And it doesn't follow along with the products that come here, and then we are without. So in that case, like you said, well, we shouldn't perhaps ask the developed world for coming to pick all the things, but for sure we can still say that we would need those kind of money to take care of this. And especially what I see, you also talked about cherry picking and not cherry picking, but we already have a lot of e-waste laying around along the rivers and dump sites and informal dump sites, where I would say bulbs and toners and all of these, the CRTs, of course, and when they break, you have the phosphorus powder inside, etc., which contaminates fully both the soil and the waters, and then comes to air pollution and when it evaporates. So we do need those kind of fundings to actually clean up while taking care of what is coming. New is easier. So we need to round up, and we have a comment from Dorcas Otieno, UNESCO Chair, Kenyatta University. He running a green economy and sustainability project, including circular economy, and she's hoping to partner up and enhance capacity building. Thank you, Dorcas, for that, and I'm sure you will have people reaching out to you. Like I said, also in your left-hand panel, you can reach all the people, participants, and meet up for a lounge meeting where you can have a one-on-one online through this platform. So, Malcolm, rounding up, thank you so much. We've gotten so much from you. I hope if it's possible for you to join in other sessions, you are more than welcome. We need to move on, and everybody just stay still. We're going to move us all to the next session digitally. And when you come to that session, you will press join down in the bottom margin. So thank you all for this introduction. It was great.
Thank you.
Let's move on.